Hey, Gutfoxx here. So I've gotten a lot of people asking me for an updated tier ranking, aka top 5 for the game right now, right? Best 5 at each position. So we're going to go through that. We're going to start with starting pitching. Obviously, not a lot of times we spend on starting pitches. There's a lot to talk about. I even put out a tweet saying, hey, who are your guys' top 5 starting pitches? Because there's so many good cards right now, right? Like, this game is all, sinker based. It sucks. I really wish they nerfed sinkers so we can get a little bit more variety. We don't have to look for pitchers with only sinkers or maybe outliers. There's like the random difference, like Valenzuela, and it doesn't. That's like, whoa, but he's kind of like a special case we'll get to in a little bit. But anyways, I put out a tweet, and there's a lot of guys with very similar lists, right? You see a lot of similar names. Taiwan always should be number 1, of course. But overall, like, there's kind of a consensus, but not really, right? Because, like, I feel like there's like 15 top end pitchers right now that are starters that you could definitely get a lot of outs with. And a lot of these cards, you've seen me throw perfect games on this channel with Greg Maddux, which we'll get to in a little bit. But like, you can throw gems with almost all of these guys, with a few exceptions, right? Guys that really don't have a good repertoire, 4-seam slider, changeup, curveball. But don't get me wrong, it's fine. But like, this game really revolves around one pitch, maybe 2, right? Sinker, cutter, then maybe a changeup on it, a slider, curveball. So Corbin Burns has an amazing repertoire right there, because sinkers look like curveballs. For some reason, they rise out of the hands instead of doing what they should do, which is have a sharp break late, then it, like, downwards, arm side. 2-seamers should maybe the same thing, but like, to make it look like a curveball is why they're really busted right now. So anyways, we're going for the pitchers that are the most busted overall in the top 5 starting pitchers right away. Number 5, let's get right to that guy that I just talked about, Corbin Burns. You guys saw stats. The issue with Corbin Burns that I found is, like, now that I'm seeing him a lot, like, a lot of my ranked games are against Corbin Burns. It feels a lot like we had like last year with I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. The Yankees pitcher right now. Now I gotta go to the Yankees just to figure him out. Kluber last year. And Kluber was, had that same thing, sinker, cutter, slurve, change, that kind of pitch right there. But we saw him so much that it became a little bit easier to kind of like pick up his pitches and do that. So the same thing's kind of happening with Corbin Burns, right? They gave us a free absolute stud amongst studs right there. Sinker, cutter, slider, change, especially with his velocity. But like, I feel like he's getting a little worse because we're seeing him so much. And obviously, like I talked about with Valenzuela, like, Corbin Burns will play on most difficulties. Some guys play much better on high difficulties, but like, sinkers play on every single difficulty. Like, if you're playing BR, it's basically draft guys with sinkers, or a Aroldis Chapman with an outlier. Edward Cabrera, talking about someone with a sinker and an outlier. He's got my number 4 on my list right now because he throws absolute freaking gas right there. His per nines over 101 hits per 9. I like both hits per 9 and K per 9 to be high. Like, obviously looking at walks per 9 and control numbers on their pitches along with break is so important. But like, hits per 9 I kind of look at a little bit more than Ks per 9, because hits per 9 it shrinks the inside PCI, Ks per 9 shrinks the outside PCIs. And I know, like, if you're an all-star, guys are going to contact swing, so like, you want the high K per 9, but they're just going to foul the ball off with that contact swing because it's so busted. Anyways, like, this guy, because of the outlier quirk on his sinker, makes it very hard. Like, a lot of guys talk about like how players play at Legend. I mean, let's be real. Like, less than 1% of players will ever play this game on Legend difficulty in ranked seasons, right? They might come out with like an event with it and might play some more of it. But like, overall, like, a lot of the cards, like, you see, like I'm not gonna rank Valenzuela in my top 5. He's well regarded, right? Well regarded at higher difficulties. But like, I'd say a majority of the audience right here are going to be playing on All-Star. And I think Valenzuela is like okay on All-Star, but I feel like because like the screwball like break and sharpness and velocity, it doesn't seem as like punishing on All-Star as it would be on higher difficulties. So like, that's why I'm not putting him in top 5 right now. But like I said, like, all these guys can absolutely throw gems. Like Tom Seaver, he kept me off balance in, I don't know, ranked seasons a few days ago. For me, it has 14 inning pitch with Tom Seaver, 0.61 ERA. Like, Seaver goes crazy. So, like, it's so hard to decide on a top 5 here, and this is probably the worst position for it. But anyways, my number 3, Greg Maddux. You guys saw me pitch that perfect game with him. Like I talked about, like I say, he's another sinker, cutter, circle change, slider, curveball. Great pitches. Velocity's not near the top end, but like, what's great about this Maddux card is, like, from inning 1 to inning 9, and maybe you throw a lot of pitches, maybe it doesn't get all the way to inning 9 for you, but like, from inning 1, he's gonna dot you up with with the sinker cutter, with all of his pitches, right? With all of his controls on that. The breaks on him are great too. So they're very hard to time up. So a lot of guys take a couple innings to really get in the groove. You got to make a guy not hit you early on to get that high control with pinpoint because pitcher confidence is broken. But Greg Maddux can do that the whole game. I love him. Number 3, he performs very well. And I think he'll do well for you out there, unless, of course, you play an absolute demon who hits everything, which sometimes we go against guys, right? Like 1 out of every 20 to 50 games, you'll find an absolute demon out there. You're like, wow, I cannot get this guy out. This guy's totally on me. So you have to rotate through pitches until you find something that does well against him. Number 4 for me, I'm gonna go Cliff Lee, right? Sinker, cutter, circle change, like you say, it's very predictable. The pitches that I love, sinker, cutter. Like if you don't have a sinker, cutter, I'm kind of okay on you with minor exception of guys that don't have it. Circle change, knuckle curve. So overall, his K per 9's over 100. Hits per 9, a little bit lower than you want to see, but absolute devastating pitches right here. Obviously, four-seamer. I don't think I'd ever really throw the four-seamer with Cliff Lee here because I prefer my pitches with movement. I think four-seamers are the easiest pitches to hit like an all-star, especially at that velocity. But yeah, obviously higher velocity is, different thing to talk about. And then my number 1 pitcher right now, it's tough to say, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Al Leiter. The issue with Al Leiter is that I just haven't used him, right? I used him last year and I really liked him. People this year, he topped a lot of people's lists for the best one. I mean, hits per 9 at 118, on Legend, that's going to make a lot of PCIs look like walnuts out there. And then again, sinker, cutter, curveball, slider. So it's pretty easy to see what pleases me. I'm basically, drunk on prom night right now with how easy it is to see what please. That was terrible. I'm sorry, guys. But anyways, Al Leiter's right there too. But here's the thing: so many other pitchers, right? My top 5, I feel like it's eminently arguable. Seeing everybody and get their top 5s. Quinn right here. We'll get a ton of people out. Sinker, change, curve, slider, and then it's got a four-seam that's a little bit faster than the sinker. You can maybe work in a little bit. Plus high command too, with walks per 9, control, break on his curveball. Sinker is insane too. So Quinn, we'll get a ton of guys out. He could easily make the top 5, right? There's so many good ones. Crotchet right there. I really want to fit this guy in my top 5. I almost thought about it because he has this outlier one. So his four-seamer goes at 102, then a slider changeup. So even though he doesn't have a sinker or a cutter or anything like that, having an outlier from a funky arm angle is very kind of nice. It's kind of a lot like a cap that way. It's not the most insane arm angle ever, but it is okay. Talked about Cabrera, Corbin Burns. Pedro Martinez just came out. I think he just missed my list. I do like him. He doesn't have the sinker though. So I feel whenever I throw a fastball, I'm like, okay, well, they're going to tee off me here. You can still get a ton of outs with Pedro here. That's right. I got a rage quit in 1 inning with my choice with Pedro. But yeah, cutter, slider, curve. I really like this Pedro, but I don't think he's my top 5. AJ Burnett's got a sinker. Feller, I don't really love a lot, but he can get guys out. Of course, Brandon Webb's not really talked about a lot. The sinker's got 99 break on a sinker, right? This Brandon Webb's crazy, right? But I hear nobody talking about it. I don't know why. Brandon Webb is absolutely awesome. That's a great card. DeGrom's good for people. We talked about Valenzuela, Seaver. We talked about so many of the cards going down. It's wow. Oral Hershiser. He could pinch you gems. Mike Hampton's okay too with the sinker, cutter, changeup, slider from the left side. Got good per 9s also. The absolute selection of there's just so many cards out there. Any one of these cards that I just went through right there can absolutely be studs out there. So starting pitches, I feel the hardest one to do just the top 5 of in this. But overall, you really can't go wrong in the starting pitching spot, and it's really mostly up to your opponent how good they are. All right, so let's go to relievers. Who are my top 5 relievers? Let's go ahead and start at number 5. That will be the inning boss, and we're getting into inning boss obviously Friday, so this list will, it's never perfect, never stable because everything's always changing. Number 5 will be Lee Smith for me. I do like Lee Smith's forkball, right? He's on the this list because his forkball, it really throws me off, right? Ks per 9 kind of high, hits per 9 101, very solid, but overall this card, he does not have the outlier, but throws at 99, so he can get up to 102. He's got a very fast fastball, and then the forkball is nice. Cutter at 94 has got some good movement on it too. That can really get some like back door or front door. If they're like, I'm not going to bite on his inside fastball, you throw that cutter in there, you cut it into a fastball, like, oh wow, now they're going to rethink their entire life because like, oh my god, now I got to swing an inside fastball because it'll be cutter and it could fool me when it gets back over to the plate. So the slider's nice too. A little bit of a wipeout there too at 91, but overall I do like it. I think relievers, like it's weird because like Rich Gossage is not my top 5. I've pitched absolutely awful with Gossage. I don't know why, but it's something like the slurve was a little bit wild, the sinker changeup. I don't know what it was, but maybe I got to go back to it because I really started the year with him, but I just wasn't doing well with him with analog and pinpoint I try with him. I don't know. Guys seem to seed my Rich Gossage, but maybe it was those specific players I was playing against. Who knows? But he's on my top 5 right now, so he's sadly not as good as he used to be, in my opinion. Now maybe he goes back. The newly released Rob Dibble is number 4 for me. Now, I might get some crap for this because some people absolutely love Rob Dibble. Like, I feel like whenever I go out to plate, I feel like the best way of judging pitchers is like when you're hitting against them. How good do you do when you're hitting against them? And like whenever I face Dibble, I'm not that uncomfortable. Now, he pitched a couple innings for me. He got 0 ERA, 6 strikeouts in those 2 innings on Hall of Fame. But like I'm not that uncomfortable, right? It's like, okay, just look for the fastball, swing and hit it, right? Like the slider's really slow. That's cool. The cutter's there, kind of like a changeup also. But like that's kind of what he is, right? It's just like sit on the fastball and they'll probably throw you one. He's not really a deceptive arm motion, but some people really struggle with him because of his outlier fastball. But overall, like I feel like I might say that then like the next 10 innings I go against Rob Dibble, I don't get a hit against them, right? Like that's how this just baseball works. But overall, like even from last year when people like creamed themselves about Dibble, I was like, really? I never really like feared him. My number 3 will be Adam Wainwright. He's very similar to like the Greg Maddux that I talked about. Sinker, cutter, curveball, changeup. Throws a little bit faster, but my God, the movement. Like, right? It pitch breaks 70 on a sinker, but it's so weird. I think it's because of his arm angle. Some guys, like Mariano Rivera this year, he doesn't throw the cutter with a lot of break, but his sinker breaks an insane amount. I think it's because they changed his arm angle this year, but the arm angle also plays into how much the sinker break. That's why Oral's sinker always breaks more than his actual break stat because the arm angle at which he releases it, which is kind of cool, little small detail to individualize players. But Wainwright right here, you can literally dot every single freaking corner with this guy. Obviously the changeup control ain't great, so you might hang that a little bit, but like overall I feel very comfortable with Wainwright out there on the mound. 1 ERA and 8 innings pitched, but overall I love going to Wainwright in the middle relief role. Like if you got like a reliever cap, Wainwright will lead into him. My number 2 will be Mariano Rivera. I just talked about him. Mariano Rivera number 2. A lot of people are like, what the heck? Why is Rivera number 2? Who's number 1? Well, I think you guys know. Just thinking about it a little bit. Great cutter, sinker. But the thing about Mariano Rivera is crazy. He is a sinker slider pitcher, right? You basically live with the sinker slider. You can throw the changeup too, a little bit more vertical break if people are on your cutter at all. But like cutter, I feel like I use the cutter as my third pitch, as like throw sinkers in on the hands against righties. I'll use cutters in on the hands against lefties. Just don't mess with it in the zone, or else it's going a long distance. But overall, like if they start taking the sinkers in, then you just go to the cutter and you cut into the zone. The thing with the cutter though, it doesn't like a lot of break. Right? Even though it says 99 pitch break, his cutter does not have 99 break. It's due to his arm angle. It's sad. It breaks okay against lefties but against righties, there's much better cards with cutters with like much lower break than him that actually cut more than his cutter. It's sad. But Mariano's number 2 for me. I feel like some guys hit him well, but like this guy, I don't feel like anybody hits this guy well. Like I feel like Aroldis Chapman, just like whenever you bring him up, it's wild. Like guys like forget that they hit. Right, guys, I got 4 of him. I've pulled him so much, I just haven't sold him. I expect him to go up in overall some more. I got a 2.88 ERA. I think I blew up some games in BR with him. Not BR. Where would I have blown some games with him? Maybe, was there an event earlier? But anyways, I'm just so confident bringing in Chapman that maybe I get a little lazy, right? The way to pitch with Chapman is backwards, right? You throw the slider first. You always throw the slider first on Chapman. Everybody's sitting fastball, right? Slider, throw the sinker in on the hands against lefties. Slider into the knees against righties. Throw the outside fastball, splitter away, splitter down, obviously. But overall, I love Chapman. Love Chapman 100%. He's my number 1. I just hate facing him. I can't hit him. He is God tier there at reliever. So he's my number 1. Even though, they're like better overalls. Like, is it really that better overall when he's playing up to like 120 hits per nine, 118 Ks per nine, plus an outlier, slider, sinker, splitter? I'm not sure there is. He's just a little wild sometimes. Anyways, on to catchers. Sorry, this is already at 14 minutes. My apologies for how long these things tend to go. Catchers right here. Now, I have not used Wieters, so this is tough because, I was waiting to get him from once he goes down in community or ranked seasons. I just got I think a few more games to win before I get World Series. But overall, Wieters, solid. Let's start at number 5 though, right? I might as well talk about it. Might as well, follow it up. Like, there are like 3 guys. Like, I wasn't gonna do out of position dudes in this thing, but I think I'm gonna start doing out of position dudes. Not for every, like, outfielder I can do out of position, or else they're all just gonna be like, number 1 is Trout and stuff like that. But overall, I think Joe Torre and Jimmy Fox have a very big argument for number 5 right here. But overall, I'm gonna put number 5 at Piazza. Why Piazza? Well, I think, some people really hate his swing, but he's got good attributes across the board at the plate, at the field. Like, I don't see, like, stealing's kind of a thing this year, but like, it's a lot less of a steal year than previous years. I feel like it's easier to throw people out, even with somebody of Piazza's caliber. I've caught 99 speed guys with that. So, like, you really have to, like, know how to steal. Number 4, though, I'm going to go with little fake out there. Number 4 is going to be a switch hitting Adley Rutschman. Now, his hitting isn't the greatest, but he is a kind of good ace in the field again. Ups that arm, ups that block. I definitely think block matters. Using Jimmy Fox a little bit, blocking definitely matters this year. It mattered last year too, but it's good to see it's evident back again this year. But overall, good switch hitter. Number 3 is another switch hitter, Jorge Posada. He's not as good in the field, but I do like his ability to make contact and drive the ball, right? This is a mix between All-Star and Hall of Fame. 429, slugging 914. He's an amazing 8-hole hitter for me. Some people like speed in the 8-hole in case they get walked, but I like a guy that's going to get on base and get my pitcher up, so that way the next inning can start with the top of the order instead of starting with the bottom. All right, number 2, though, will be Wieters. We talked about Wieters. I love switch hitters. I've made this joke a million times. I love switches more than Adrian Peterson. Yes, right? Contact versus righties, unfortunately, low. So that's something you kind of got to get used to. 67, it's not going to, play amazingly on higher difficulties. But overall, 80 power, there he is, plus an absolute general in the field. Not fast, though. So that's the downside, right? And end game fielder, switch hitter. I haven't used him, so I got him at number 2, and I do want to use him. Number 1, is it going to be Sam Huff, the new Team Affinity? No, Sam Huff doesn't make my top 5. Who's it going to be, right? Who else? You got Travis Denard. Wait, what? It's not even going to be a 90-something? We talked about Joe Torre, Jimmy Fox, those guys out of position. It's Gary Sanchez. This guy's wild, especially on All-Star, right? All-Star, this guy is absolutely, like bonkers. Right, 103 against righties, even against lefties. I really don't feel lefties that much. Yeah, the PCI is small. You can maybe platoon him with Jimmy Fox, who kills lefties, much higher contact and very similar power against lefties for Jimmy Fox. But overall, 86 arm, phenomenal. Sure, his blocking sucks, speed sucks, but he's got a bat. Gary Sanchez, his swing's nice. It's got a little bit of an uppercut to it. You will jack some dongers with him. I'm a fan of Gary Sanchez, and that's my number 1 catcher. So right there, those are my catchers. I guess I can go and show you the list right now. Over here, there's my top 5 catchers, and I said, maybe honorable mentions are the out of position guys. They get them as secondaries and Sam Huff. All right, moving on to first base. Who is going to be my 5th favorite first baseman? My 5th favorite first baseman it's going to be like a wild card, right? I've been recommended this by a very good player that I know, talk a lot with on Twitch. Give me my money. It says Rod Carew. Rod Carew. And then I'm like, Rod Carew sucks. What are you talking about? I took him into a game, Hall of Fame, and did nothing but hit live drives. The craziest thing. I don't know. Small sample size, yes, but he said Rod Carew was his end game first baseman in previous years. He just gets the ball down. He gets on base. So it's tough to say hey, Carew is great. Carew's awesome because he's got no power, right? He's not gonna put it over the fence. On All-Star, you definitely want somebody a lot more power there to put it over the fence, because even with your mystery with PCI, with power, just it's easy. But I think on higher difficulties, I think Carew is the guy. So how I talked about Valenzuela on higher difficulties is a much better pitcher. I think on higher difficulties, Rod Carew is a much better hitter. He's a very a two-handed swing. It's very quick, gets around on the ball and barrels it up and launches line drives. It's awesome. It's kind of like Mondesi's swing. But man, at like 125 contact. So anyways, my number 4 first baseman will be this Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think I like the reverse splits righty on righty. I think he's got a nice swing too. Not fast, not great in the field, but that's okay at first base. Overall, a solid hitter. That's all I really got to say about Vladimir Guerrero. Solid hitter. Lou Gehrig, I wish was better, man. I really wish. He'll get a better card down the road. Number 3 will be Adam Dunn. You really can't say much more than raw power, right? All-Star, Hall of Fame with the 84 contact versus righties, an absolute killer there. I will say Dunn, and I feel like some of the first basemen have a little bit slower of swings than I'd love to see. But overall, if you can get contact on the ball with Dunn, with my number 2, which is Jim Thome, who's basically a slightly better Dunn. If you can get to hold the ball, like Dunn's got better speed, like 55 speed versus 29. But overall, Thome's better at the plate. So Dunn, maybe you throw him in like left field if you want, right? 55 speed, 88 arm. It's not great on the speed, right? Reaction 61, not great, but the better plate man is Thome. And Thome was phenomenal for me last year. This year, struggle starting off, kind of higher difficulties. But overall, 119 contact versus right, 125 power versus right. My goodness, that's crazy. He doesn't have a third base secondary like I had last year, so that's tragic. But we'll get to third baseman in a second. Edgar, I haven't used Edgar this year. In previous years, he had good swings. I just don't love his attributes this year versus the other first baseman. Being a righty, having that bad of power versus lefties. It's tough, right? It's tough to be like if you're a hit first guy to really struggle against one side of the plate. So it's too bad he's a righty that struggles against lefties. But anyways, my number 1 will end up being David Ortiz. Ortiz is, like I said, like the swing isn't like super quick, not super fast at all, like Rod Carew. But my God, like he's launched so many good home runs for me. There's so many clutch home runs, slugging over 1,000 fours and 80 plate appearances, 80 at bats. I mean, so overall, I've really enjoyed this David Ortiz card, and he's my number 1. Just attributes alone, it shows that he's the man, right? Lefty, he'll jack it out of the park too. Love him, lefty also. Just watch those inside fastballs. All right, at second base, who is my number 5 second baseman? It's going to be Nick Solak. Why is Nick Solak my number 5 second baseman, even though his overall isn't near the top 5? It's, one of the lower diamonds. It's because of his stats, right? Like 76 speed is respectable, very respectable for second baseman. Obviously, it's not Jackie style, but like he's got great power versus righties and lefties, good contact against those two. So overall, and he's flexible, right? If you want to bring in somebody at second base, you can move him to first, third, anywhere in the outfield. Love this card right here for that flexibility and power, right? This is where I'm going to talk about out of position guys. There's not a ton of second basemen in this game. There's a few that I'll get to, but otherwise, shortstop, we're going to go with Wander. I don't know if you guys know by now, I really love switch hitters, and Wander is one of them. He doesn't have the greatest attributes, right? Power isn't phenomenal, but he is solid across the board with 81 speed. His fieldings are all in the 80s. Contacts, 87, 99 against righties, so overall, a very solid, I'd say. He's hitting in 63 at-bats, 556 for me. 556 he's hitting. That's his contact numbers don't say that, but for some reason, he just hits 566. Don't ask me how. He's just done it. Obviously, maybe a little bit of luck in there along with it, but like Wander, that's how a card is good, is when you're like, oh, he's giving me a lot of lucky hits. Oh, that's probably maybe the card, maybe some fortunate stuff going on with him too. At second base, I really love Fernando Tatis, right? Like 96 speed. 99 arm, it feels like it's wasted at second base, but 96 speed is definitely not. 96 speed up the middle. There's a lot of those balls that are like, Texas Leaguers right over your head that you can get to with them. 53 at bats with him, hitting 472, also 1,700. Sorry, I don't show my stats with every card. Maybe I should, get used to doing that better. But overall, Tatis, he got that big boost versus righties, an absolute stud now, right? He doesn't have a lot of flaws in his game. And he's got a nice little quick swing. Plus, never forget about quirks. Live series cards with quirks, right? I saw on the subreddit that somebody did testing, and like these they say minor quirks, like homebody night player. So you play at home and at night, they get +6 contact, and they imagine +6 power along with it for those quirks. So like if you look at his 82 contact, if you're playing night at home, he now has 94 contact. Which is crazy, right? That's insane. And then the first pitch hitter, the guy said these kind of things are +8. So if you swing at the first pitch, you now have what did I say, 94. You now have 102 contact, and then his power gets jacked too. So, like, it's kind of wild. Breaking ball hitter. If they throw a breaking ball, that's +8 to contact. And then, like they said, they're guessing at power. It's very hard to test power. I wish the devs came out and said this, what these quirks do. Situational hitter. So he's got all these quirks here that add to his contact and power that are not reflected on this screen, but are reflected in game when you actually play it. So this Tatis card, even though he's 92 overall, even though he's a superstar cover boy, still underrated. Still underrated. Not I also really like Alfonso Soriano at second base. Out of position again. He's a left fielder. People have talked about his slower swing, and I agree with it. It's a little slow on the pull side, but Soriano, I still like him. He still hits pretty well for me. And then my first baseman, or my first second baseman, Jackie Robinson. Now I'm gonna eat some crow here. I hated Jackie Robinson. This is one of those things where I had a little bit of a small sample size at first with Jackie Robinson. And he wasn't hitting well for me. I'm like, oh wow, maybe he has an awful swing. And then I replied to Cougs on Twitter like, Jackie hasn't really done it for me. And then now he's up to hitting 461, right? Through 30 at bats, he was hitting 200. And you can imagine in the next 46 at bats to get my average up to 461, slugging 882. I mean, and then plus his speed, plus what he does on the base paths in the field, it's just wild. This guy, he's shown it to me. So that's why I hate, sometimes cards, you don't get enough sample size with them. So it's hard, say, oh, this guy's whatever, because I've got, 30 at-bats with them. So, I wish I just had more time. That's the thing. So many cards, not enough time. My fifth third baseman will be Miguel Cabrera. I talked about him in my last ranking video quite a bit. We'll talk about, so it goes Cabrera, who's been in the game for a while, so you guys probably know him. George Brett will be my fourth guy right there at third base. George Brett, a nice sweet swing. I haven't used him a ton this year. His contact's a little bit lower than it has been in previous year. Power against righties 90. You can hit home runs with George Brett. I feel like George Brett is one of the more overlooked cards in the game. I don't know why. I think it's maybe because he comes out of BR and you don't see a lot of people using BR cards as much. But overall, George Brett, phenomenal card. Number 3 will be Kyle Seager. I think he's a great bounce card. He's a little slow. He doesn't really have a great arm from third base in case you need to make one of those throws from foul territory after the momentum takes you that way. Not going to exactly beat out the fast runners right there. But overall, solid stats across the board. Haven't really got to use it myself yet though. Number 2 will be Eddie Matthews. Joe Torre was kind of in the running. I'm still testing out. I'm still testing him out. I played one game with him, 3 for 4. So he had one good game for me. That was at Hall of Fame difficulty. I think it was my last ranked game. But overall, I want to test him out a little bit more at catcher. At third base though, 84 power. But man, that contact is so sexy. That is so on higher difficulties. 125 cannot be understated. It's unfortunate, but I'm gonna go Eddie Matthews. Right, I like him. I like his swing. He's again not fast. Arms okay. Powers, it is what it is. Contacts okay. Maybe better at maybe an all-star goon. But once you have legend difficulty, maybe Eddie Matthews ain't as great as anything else. But number 1 is obviously Chipper. I mean, I don't even think it's close. Chipper is Chipper. Some people say they don't like his swing. It is what it is. But Chipper just being a live series collection, switch hitting. Destroys lefties, hits righties really well, decent speed, fielding all across the board, hitting 451 for me, 1400 OPS, overall an absolute stud, and end game from day one, third baseman. So that is the third base order. I think I probably overrated Eddie Matthews, but I don't care. All right, and to shortstop, we are going to put number 5 is going to be Ernie Banks. I talked about Ernie Banks in my last ranking video. He's solid all around. I actually kind of like his swing. It's just, you'll face the majority right-handed pitchers, so 82 contact, 94 power. It's really nice. But the biggest downside of this card is the 57 speed. I don't love slow guys up the middle because I talked about earlier with fast ground balls with Texas Leaguers, you want to kind of get to them. So I like a little bit more speed. So he kind of restricts your ability in the field a little bit like that. And then when I say that, my next favorite one will be this Fernando Tatis. He's my number 4 at shortstop. So we go Ernie Banks, Fernando Tatis as those two. We talked about Fernando again in the second baseman. We're gonna circle back along to Wander Franco at shortstop. Actually, sorry, Tatis is supposed to be above Wander. I talked about him out of order. So I like Wander, who's got 81 speed. I like him because of the switch hitting. And then I talked about Tatis too. And then I really do enjoy this Ronnie. Now, he's also not the fastest, right? 64 speed. He's got an incredible arm, though. He's switch hitting, and he's got good power and contact attributes against both sides. I love this guy, right? I love Ronnie. I love his ability to basically always make me feel comfortable at the plate. I feel more comfortable when I'm on the right side of the matchup, and he does that. So I'll sacrifice the speed of like Tatis for the switch hitting attributes. Now the number one, I think you guys know who it is, Trevor Story. I think Trevor Story's it. I don't know what this guy. I don't know what this guy's on. Hitting 714 for me. Obviously 21 at bats, a small sample size. Hitting 714. He's got a really nice swing. I'm super surprised with how good his swing is. It's wild. The ball just jumps off his bat. It's crazy. And like even if you miss the ball still seems to jump. I don't get it. High speed, high fielding, arm, everything you want. I love this Trevor Story card. Inject this stuff right into my veins. Trevor Story, tell me a story about somebody better. I'd be hard pressed. Maybe Honest Wagner when he comes out. But otherwise, those are my top 5 shortstops right there. All right, left field. Now, like I said, I am not going to mix my outfielders. So if you're a left fielder, you'll be in this crew. I won't put center fielders here, even though center fielders are better than some left fielders, and they'd make the top 5 if I include them. But overall, left field, number 5. And it is, corner outfielders are a little bit weaker, but this guy's not weak, right? Jordan Alvarez. I had a hard choice right here at number 5 between Jordan, Dominic, and Babe Ruth, right? Babe Ruth, he's another one that started slow, but now all of a sudden I'm just crushing the ball with him. 1,200 slugging, 1,700 OPS. But like they're kind of liabilities in the field, right? 44 speed on Jordan. Babe Ruth's a little bit faster at 57. Dominic Smith at 38. So Jordan gets it. I feel like I really love his swing. A little bit smaller of sample size of Jordan, but like whenever I go against him, I'm also afraid, right? I'm seriously afraid of Jordan at the plate. So Jordan is absolute, like, you just got like a trampoline bat. That shit just like pops off of it. Next up will be, number 4 will be Jason Bay. A right-handed swing. They definitely patched him. They made it a little bit better. It was very hitchy when it started off. Speed is 66. Not great. Not as bad as like Jordan and the other guys. Arm isn't great either, but overall, a well-attributed across the board hitter. Next up on the list, I guess I can fill those 2 in on my left fielder ranks. Next up on the list will be Ohtani. Ohtani right there at left field. Why? I don't know. His swing's kind of glitchy. That's all I know. He's awful against lefties contact styles, especially at higher difficulties. But on All-Star, that's fine enough. 51, you can still hit the ball. He's good speed, amazing arm. It's too bad you can't leave him in this year and let him pitch. They force you to sub it in because of the baseball rule that MLB actually got rid of. Left fielder. Also, I'm going to go Soto. And then number 1 will be Soriano. Soto's an insane hitter. They did nerf him recently, which might make me think like, I don't know, maybe he does go down in the rankings because they nerfed his hitting stats a little bit. He is playing up today against lefties, but overall, still an absolute stud out there. Really nice swing. I'm hitting 525 with him and 80 at bats with 1900 OPS. He's done very well. And then Soriano was a number 1. We talked about him before. A little bit slower swing, but I still like him out there for his speed and arm and everything that goes along with it. All right, in center field. Let's shift this over a little bit. Center field. I mean, I don't even. It doesn't even need to matter. Like, right? Let's just do Trout. Right? It don't matter. Let's just show the whole top 5. I mean, Trout's number 1. Isn't that close? There's my top 5. I like Finley's hitting, but I feel like I'm starting to realize the downside of Finley a little bit more. He's come through with a ton of clutch hits for me, but the contact at 86 and 76 is I've definitely seen the PCI a little bit littler than I like. Now, because we have contact swing being glitched, it's not as big a deal as it would be if contact swing wasn't so glitchy, but overall, he's there for me. The other argument there is Acuna, who they kind of massacred against righties. I don't really like that at all because, like I said, the majority of the players you play against will be righties. So Acuna went 5. Doby is like glitched, dude. Doby's got weird. I don't know how he hits so well, but Doby just seems to have the ball explode off his bat, and he's just constantly finding holes out there for me where I feel like he shouldn't be, right? Where like I mistime it, he just finds a hole anyways. I hit the ball over the fence somehow magically with him too. I'm balls. I'm like, oh, that should not have been a home run. Anyways, Buxton was my number 3. I hate this card. There's no card I hate more in this game. This is Buxton. This guy's taking away more hits from me than, I don't know, the songwriters the last 20 years. Those are my songs. They stole them from me. So yeah, Buxton. Hate this. Hate it. I see it all over. I see him everywhere. I wasn't able to hit with him very well, so I don't use him. But overall, the reaction speed, it's unnatural out there. And he covers more of the earth than the oceans. Absolutely despise Buxton. All right, right field, number 5. He's been in the game for a while. I'm going to go Vlad Guerrero Sr. right there in right field. Sorry, you might be hearing the kid in the background. We got to wrap this up quick. So Vlad Guerrero, great against lefties, not that great against righties. So, he's whatever. Decent arm, though. I don't know why they gave him such bad arm. Maybe late in his career he didn't have a great arm, but one of the best hoses of all time. Let me just show you the final 4 in right field. I'm going to go Bichette as my number 1 right fielder. You're like, what the heck, Bichette? Bichette's got a nice swing. I like him. Plus his attributes, he destroys lefties, good against righties. Speed 70 is cromulent. It's not insane, but it's cromulent. Arm is actually really bad though. So he's not going to do you any defensive favors out there. So that's tough. Reggie Jackson's got an argument for the best right fielder. It depends if you want a righty or a lefty. Jackson's got a nice lefty swing. I've used it in previous years. Have not used this card this year, so sorry, that's off the top of my head. Baines I put at number 4. Again, I haven't used this card, so it sucks that I can't say that. Gwynn I haven't used either. But basically, I'm guessing that he's, right around there. I do like this Jorge Solar card because of the power, right? Arm, speed, anything. But man, a bunch of hitters here in right field. Not a ton of insane fielders. So a lot of times you'll throw like a center fielder in right field and be done with it. But overall, there are my rankings right now, the top 5 at each position. Let me know where you guys agree, disagree. Let's talk. Let me know in the comments. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching Call to Action. I'll see you tomorrow.